I am here with Matthew. It's pronounced Krause?
Krause, yes.
Krause. All right. And of course, I'm Ron Rodgers. We're doing another exciting episode of the podcast today to talk about AI songwriting. Matthew, to kind of clue you in a little bit. Do you go by Matthew or Matt?
Matthew.
Matthew. All right. Mm-hmm. Biblical name. I like that. Mm-hmm. So the motivation behind this podcast was I'm a traditional songwriter. And I was in a meeting recently with a bunch of other songwriters, and the concept came up about AI writing, and there was a lot of what seemed to be lack of knowledge or understanding of not so much the AI product, but the why behind the AI product, like why somebody is choosing to use AI as a resource or a tool, or why they're kind of leaning heavily on it. And I've met quite a few people during this phase of trying to better understand that for myself. And I've met some interesting people. And you responded to a Facebook message, and you sent me some links to your music, and you are an interesting person. That's why you're here on this podcast. I want you to tell me a little bit about, kind of what inspired you to be a songwriter, and then even your process. Like, are you a musician, or are you an AI guy that likes to type it in?
Well, I can't sing. I've tried to learn the guitar, and it's just, some people just have that ability. I'm very jealous of that. I wish I had more natural music ability, but I know when I hear something that I like. And I always have thoughts, ideas of, even before I started doing AI music on, how to create something. I think that's what's so awesome about music, is the ability to take an idea, a concept, with my faith-based stuff, the Bible verse, and turn it into music. And I think that's an awesome gift. I wish I could do it like you, naturally, but I can't, so that's why I do the AI part of it. And I've really learned a lot, and it's been fun, and it's very therapeutic for me as well.
Right on.
Be able to take an idea or anything, and then turn it into a song, and turn it into an emotion. That's what I always look for when I make a song, is how do I tell my message, but have it have emotion to it, whether it's a positive emotion or maybe not. Sometimes, it's a sad emotion, but it resonates. So
one thing that I think is really cool is, as I do these interviews, there are so many parallels to traditional songwriters, AI writers. As a songwriter, what you're trying to do is tell a story, but capture that emotion. So, you've already got the building blocks of the songwriting process. And, you had said that it came naturally to me. I would like to think that it didn't come naturally. I was just kind of interested in it, and I started to learn more about it. And as I was starting to learn more about it, the talent and the skill level started to improve, but it improved at a pace that it could have went faster had I put more work into it. It could have went slower had I put less work into it. So it's an evolving process. But I think that's the same as, trying to uncover who you are as a writer through the AI world. Before I get into process, though, because I definitely want to learn, like, kind of how you go about it. What's the why behind your music? I know you said that it was kind of therapeutic and stuff like that, and you gave us a little intro to who you are. But is there a why behind, why you chose to write music, or why you chose to go down this path?
Yeah, it's actually changed. When I first started, it was because I was frustrated with the radio music. It was like, this is terrible. And, I'm in that age group where I grew up in the 90s and 2000s listening to alternative music and, hip hop music and just a huge spectrum, and it just seems like it's not there, or at least on the radio it didn't. I wasn't hearing it, and I just stumbled across one of these AI generation tools, and went through a couple of them until I got to the one I use now, which is Suno. And I started out doing parodies, which just having fun with it, and then I started doing some like secular stuff, like hip hop and some country, some alternative. And then I think November of last year, I watched the show called the Forge, and it's kind of a faith-based movie about a young man who's has challenges, has no direction, and long story short, a gentleman becomes kind of a disciple to him, and something clicked in me. And from that day on, I just started getting right with God and trying to build a relationship. I downloaded an app, which I've done every morning, just to kind of get the day started right. And then I started converting the music I'm making to only faith-based music, but not like maybe the music that you'd hear in the at church. Some of it is, but I kind of was like, you know what? I want to be able to reach people with God's message in a genre that they can relate to. So, like, I created a group called Wonderlight. We had 11 songs I created, and they're all alternative, kind of like Green Day was, and they have that same sound, a little harder, but the message is ingrained into each song. And then I did a bunch of things for like hip hop, genres, and country is what I'm on now. So I love the idea of being able to connect with people and have them like hear God's word, but in a format that maybe they'll listen to it. And maybe, the way I look at it is, hey, if I just can get one person to like, wow, kind of like me watching that movie, it was a wow moment for me. Maybe one of my songs will be a wow moment for somebody else. So that's kind of my why. That is my why. And I'm obsessed with it because I love, just taking a Bible verse or several verses, or even just a situation that we deal with in life, pulling, how a Christian should deal with that situation and make it into a song. And I love that freedom and that kind of, it's almost like an honor. The biggest thing I really wish is that even though I make this music, I write out a lot of my lyrics, and some of them I need help with when I get stuck. So I do use AI to kind of bridge gaps. And obviously the AI generation is pretty much all done. I do some post mastering in FL Studio, which I do. But the thing I really wish is that I could take my music and have real musicians actually perform them, go to that next level. But I've reached out to a bunch of musicians and nobody wants to touch it, and I get it, so I'm just going to keep doing me. That's all I can do right now.
For sure. I think probably a lot of the reason why the musicians don't want to touch it is there's an unusual split right now in that, and I was just talking with another guy that I co-write with. We were talking about this yesterday. I said, I think that we as people, we tend to shy away from the things that we don't understand, right? And dismissal becomes our immediate response. Like, you know what? I don't know enough about it. I'm just not going to do anything with it right now. Not interested. And then there's the other side of it where, if I'm making my living writing songs, I'm writing my reputation, right? So if it comes into question now that maybe I'm writing with AI now my reputation is on the line, and that affects my future hireability, or it
Right.
even, I may blacklist myself by using AI. So
Mhm.
I think a lot of people have already said, I'm not even going down that road because I don't want to be associated with it. And I
Right.
think those are the two biggest issues. Where I think we stand a good chance is to use AI as a tool, but always be ethical and transparent about it. That way,
Mhm.
people understand, hey, you know what? I do use AI. I use it as a tool, not as a crutch, right? Like, I'm
Mhm.
not having it do these things for me. Here's the way I'm using it. The problem that creates, though, is that now there's an education process that goes along with it, right? And I don't mean I have to learn how to use it. I mean, I have to teach the general listener that, I have to explain, here's the way that I used it, and it was completely ethical, and it was above bar. And, from the chorus, I took this little piece, I took a harmony out of the chorus that I really liked, and I put it into my song, right?
Mhm.
That's a lot of explanation. So,
Right.
and to be able to do that, it's just like any other industry. When you're trying to educate somebody about your product, it costs money. So
Mhm.
I think a lot
Yeah.
of people are going, let's just go down this road of, it's familiar, we know that we don't have to do the extra work to educate the population, and we don't have to put our reputation on the line to do it. And I think
Right.
that's probably what you'll find, a lot of those folks feel that way.
Yeah.
um but what I really liked about your testimony here, was you did it to spread the message of the Lord.
Right.
And what was unique is, as you're explaining that, I'm thinking to myself, the delivery method that you chose, the alternative genre,
Mhm.
I felt like I've heard that before. So
Mhm.
I wasn't drawn to that one as much. I remember I went to years and years ago, I was a recruiter for the U.S. Air Force, and I went to a concert that was being put on by a promoter in Fresno, California, and it was they had a bunch of different Christian bands that were there, and one of
Mhm.
them was kind of that alternative,
Right.
suspenders and safety pins and all of that, and they're doing this screaming, and I remembered thinking to myself, like, that's an interesting way to present the material to a different
Mhm.
variety of listener.
Mhm.
It kind of fell short on me, just because I it wasn't the traditional what I was used to, so I didn't gravitate
Mhm.
to it. Doesn't mean that
Right.
nobody else did. It just meant that wasn't my particular flavor.
Mhm.
When I heard your hip hop tracks, now I'm not a hip hop guy. Okay.
Mhm.
If it happens to be on the radio and it's got some bounce to it, I might listen to
Mhm.
it. But when the next song comes on, I'm probably changing the channel, just because
Right.
I'm not a hip hop guy. What I thought was really unique, though, was I found myself listening to your hip hop stuff far longer than I listened to the alternative stuff, and
Mhm.
it really had bounce to it. It
Mhm.
was catchy, and, like, as all of that's going on, I find myself, I'm sitting there and I got my headphones on, I'm doing this number. I'm like, this is good music. Like, I could actually really listen to this.
Yeah.
And then it dawns on me that the content material is faith-based. And I'm like,
Mhm.
this is brilliant. So I did
Mhm.
a search, and I on Google, and I had never known that there was such a genre. And there
Mhm.
is, and it's a popular thing, and there are a lot of people that are into it. So I think what's really cool is you turned me into a listener, because
Mhm.
I didn't know that this was a thing. So it
Yeah.
is a unique delivery system, and your goal worked.
Yeah. It's an evolution. Right now I kind of bounce around. I've done EDM stuff. I've got a really nice with Suno. You can actually save a persona. So, like, if there's a voice that you want to use over and over again. So I've got 2 or 3 songs with an EDM kind of really, like, beautiful voice, and I like that. And then I've got my newest stuff is more of kind of like a country hip hop. So it's got the 808s, and it's got a
Yeah.
little twang, but it's got a real deep voice, and it's more like relationship type stuff. you know, and so anyway, it's an evolution, I kind of bounce around, and I think that, the other interesting thing is I'm on a bunch of these Facebook pages, like, Suno and Christian music pages. And even in the Christian music pages, like the musicians, they do not like AI. And it's like, they call it soulless. And it's, one guy even said it was an abomination. And I was like, well, I don't know that God is going to discriminate against how the message is put out there. We change with the times, and yes, I understand from a musician standpoint that it could make it seem like, hey, I'm going to lose to these guys, to these AI guys, because I can get songs out like that, and I know as a musician, it's just not that easy. It's a much more detailed, process. And I do feel kind of like torn about that, to be honest with you. It's like, but, I think for me, my motivation, I don't have illusions of grandeur. I don't think that my music's going to make me any money. Okay. It's more about the message, God's message, than it is money. So for me, that's where I'm coming from. Now, not every AI guy out there is the same. And I get that. And yeah, hey, if I could make a few dollars to cover the cost of my subscriptions, and, I have FL Studio here, and I'm learning how to master and hopefully maybe start doing my own music using like MIDI and stuff like that. But I'm just not there yet, maybe one day. But anyway.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of, everybody's going to have an opinion all the time. Right. And I've listened to guys, that are very well known, very popular guys that have said AI's here, so you just got to figure out what level of comfortability you are of using it, because, if the haters are going to say, right, the haters are always going to say something. Back when digital audio workstations were taken over from the analog world, everybody was like, that's cheating, that's not real, blah, blah, blah. And then, auto tune comes into play, and that's cheating, you just get a real singer. So there's always going to be, the haters are going to keep hating on no matter what it is. And I think that people are going to continue to evolve with the process. People are going to figure out ways to use it. To the point that you made, though, there are some people that are out there. I haven't had a chance to talk to them, so maybe I'm wrong in speculating and saying that there are some people that are out there, but there is a belief that there are people out there that are just trying to crank out as much crappy music as possible using AI, get it over to CD Baby or DistroKid or whoever else, and just get it up on the streaming platforms and get their 3 cents or their 0.3% of a per stream or whatever the rate is these days, on those DSPs. So I haven't bumped into any of those people yet, and I hope I do, because I would love to hear the mentality, and I would love to ask them the same kind of questions that I'm asking you.
Yeah, there was a guy on Suno that said he did like 50,000 songs a month and posted, and I was like, A, how do you physically do that? And B, why would you do that? I mean, it's like just you're throwing garbage out there, and I think I'm at about 100 faith-based songs that I've done, but every single one of them I've put thought into. I've had a reason. I've had a message, a Bible verse. The one I just wrote one the last couple of days. About a man going to work and his wife being there, like supporting him and being, praying for him. And it's a really cool song, and I've done several like that, where it's like, and I've done others where, hey, hardworking guy and his wife's being all very critical, and he's just asking Lord to help him through and help to give her peace. So, I think good songs have emotion, but also maybe have tension. You know what I mean?
You've studied this subject a little bit, haven't you?
I just know when honestly, I really haven't gone deep with it. I just know when I write a song, like, hey, I want this to be conveyed. I want there to be this, and I want there to be like, but it all, like all my last basically 100 songs I've done have been about that, and it's different things. I did you like the hip hop. There's one called Ride With You, and it's about, he's got the Lord inside him, and he's with his girl, and she's just not there yet. She's just and it's like, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm not going to judge you. It's not my place to judge you. Hopefully you're going to find grace of God at some point, and it's just being supportive. But it's in a hip hop, and I think it's pretty interesting that you can do hip hop without all the
the cursing and
explicitives and all.
Yeah.
And it still sounds like you said, hey, I like this. This is
it really did. It did a convincing job on hip hop. And I've run a couple of different things and ideas through it. And it does a pretty good job. Suno, it being it does a pretty good job. There are some things where it's not as convincing. There are some things where you get it back and you go, what is that? But, somebody that knows what they're doing with it can sit down and put together a pretty convincing track. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think with Suno, you really have to align the formatting of the lyrics with the genre. So if I just, hey, write lyrics out and say, okay, I want this in a country genre, but you upload it to Zuno and you give it style prompts. Hey, I want NOLA bounce, hip hop with 808s and all these different things that are kind of contrary to the actual flow of the lyrics, then you're going to get weird stuff. Sometimes that's interesting though. Sometimes even like adding in EMD to country, as a style prompt, as long as it's a country lyric, structure, then it can really make it unique. So, having that ability, it really is for me. Every time I come up with an idea and I get my lyrics finalized, and then I import it into Suno. It's like when I push that button, it gives you 2 iterations, and it's like a kid at the candy store waiting
for them to pull the candy out from behind the counter.
What's going to come out? And to be honest with you, it takes me every once in a while 1 iteration, but most of the time to get the sound I really want, it gets me 10 to 20 iterations of that song. And sometimes it's tweaking maybe the style prompt. Sometimes it's even changing the lyrics a little bit because it just doesn't flow right, especially with the chorus or the hook. If that doesn't hit you, the verses are
irrelevant
to me, secondary. It's got to have that. It's got to have that, like, that you feel it, and it resonates in you. At least that's my process.
I was going to say we seem to have transitioned into process. So the conversation is just evolving as we go. Your process is so identical to every, regular songwriting process. You're using the lingo. Like it's wild to see. Like there's knowledge there. It sounds like you're writing all of your own lyrics. Are you handwriting everything? Are you using any type of AI for lyric assistance, writing assistance?
I'm about 80% my own, and then I'll get stuck sometimes. And then I've got a weird, I call it a hybrid. So I always write my own hook or chorus, because that to me is what really is the most important thing. I'll usually write if there's going to be an intro, and then verse 1, and then usually verse 2. Some songs I'll add a bridge in there after verse 2. Some songs I'll add a pre-chorus or pre-hook, just to kind of, I like to have kind of the variety, where it's not just like verse, 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 and then chorus, verse, verse, verse. I like to have maybe a little bit of tempo change, a little, the bridge. I love bridges, that slow down, that kind of different tone usually comes out the way it resonates in Suno, and it really kind of, to me, that a lot of times those bridges can really just make a song on top of the chorus. I don't know how you feel about that, but I've noticed that some of the coolest songs I have really cool bridges. Just because I think it really brings home the emotion in a lot of songs. Some genres not so much, but yeah.
Yeah,
I'll do that, and then sometimes what I'll do is I'll take what I have. Sometimes it's kind of scattered, and then I'll pull it in and say, "Hey, I'm writing this song. I want your thoughts on blah 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 blah." And what would be a good bridge to add to what's already here. So it's very much kind of a hybrid. So it's not just I'm not just going in, because obviously sooner you can go in and say, okay, write me a song about David and Goliath. That's a country song, and it'll give you everything. It'll do the whole song for you. I never do that. Everything I always import my own lyrics. I also try to put in style prompts within the lyrics, which is something you can do. So, for example, sometimes you may want to do like an up note on the second chorus. So sometimes I'll do like the second chorus just to get that variety, that change. And I'll put that in. Sometimes it works. Sometimes Suno doesn't recognize it. But there's a lot of those type things you can do within the actual lyrics, aside from the style prompt that are in Suno. So
right.
And I've only been doing this 5 months, man. So I'm just like, learning. I bought FL Studio, so I've been doing like WAV mastering. Once I get the song down, I pull it in there, and I've got 2 different EQs, and I've got a compressor. It's kind of like a multi-band compressor limiter, and then a soft clipper as part of my mastering process. So I've noticed that when I upload my songs now to SoundCloud, they're all HD format, lossless now, where before I was just doing MP3.
Yeah.
And they're also a lot less mud, and because I try to get rid of some of the mud that's in the natural part of it,
right,
of what's put out there by Suno.
Right.
And sometimes, limit the bass a little bit. Sometimes a lot of these songs I hear on SoundCloud, they're so overpowered with bass that it drowns out you can't even hardly hear the vocals, So I try to raise up the vocal a little bit, lower the mid-range a little bit, and then kind of lower the super deep bass just a touch. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's starting to come out a lot better.
What I think is really cool is it almost seems like you've got the bug, like you're moving into using a digital audio workstation, and you're working on making sure that the mastering is correct. You're making all of the same types of moves that traditional songwriters make. There is a complete faction of the songwriter community that just are lyricists. They don't really do a lot of music. They don't do a lot of, guitar or keys or anything like that. They're just out there focused on writing the best lyrics as possible. And then what they do is they seek out people that are really good with instrumentation and melody and, that aren't so good with lyrics. And they come together and they put together a completely original song, that goes through the process of, like what you were saying, capturing the emotion, making sure that we're saying what we're trying to say, making sure that the song takes you on that ride, because it can't just be this, the roller coaster starts off on that climb, right? But then it gets fun after the drop. So like where is the fun part of that song gonna come in? Where's the loops? Where's the turns and all of that stuff? So that's really the essence of songwriting right there, and making sure that you put out a good product, one that's gonna mean something to somebody, and that's what I aim for when I write. I'm like, I want to make sure that at some point you either found it hard to breathe for a second, or you had to wipe a tear away, or you wanted to raise a glass in the air and go, hell yeah, this is my song, like this is my anthem. I want to evoke something like that in every song that I write. And if I can't do that, then the song's not done and it's not ready to be heard.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Ron, for the songs that I have on SoundCloud, there's 100 that I just could not get it to sound right. I just couldn't get, the lyrics were just not, there was just nothing there. And no amount of iteration was going to make it what I need to feel. I need to feel it.
Yep.
I need to feel like, and some songs you're going to feel it more than others. I just wrote a song about my uncle who passed away. I felt that, and it's actually, for me on SoundCloud, the way it works, I guess for a lot of like artists, from what I've researched, for every 100 listens, if you're getting 10% engagement, then you're doing good. I've never got more than 1% engagement on any song I've ever done. I don't know because I've got so many different kinds of songs in my account that they know that, hey, that's not just, I'm not a true artist, I guess. So maybe it's that. I don't really care, because to be honest with you, like I said, my number one thing right now is to create songs that are Bible-based, have a message, and that hopefully will help get through to people. So much so that I'm actually considering, once I get enough songs, starting like an internet radio station with just my songs, and have it be edgier. Have a hip hop hour, have alternative hour, have EDM hour, have rotate through and just have like mishmash hour and stuff like that. So it's in the works.
That's awesome. And it's a goal to have. It's half the battle is having the product, right? And you seem to have pretty firm grasp on that. The other half of the battle is getting people to listen to the stuff, right. So now you're going to have a method to do that at their control, right? I think that's what's cool about that idea, is that if I upload to any of the digital streaming platforms, then it's kind of at the mercy of the algorithm, right? Like, you might like this, you might not. And if somebody gets it, if they're in their car, they might not hear the whole song. If they don't like the intro of it, they might just hit skip right there. So to have the full control over it, to be able to go right there at your website and listen to the stuff that you've created, that's pretty cool. It's a good delivery platform.
The biggest problem is, to do a 24-hour, 7-day a week, you need, without getting too much replay, I probably need another, at a minimum, I need another probably 200 songs. I want to keep doing it at the pace I'm doing it, which is manageable for me, and it allows me to not lose the integrity of my music and really focus on getting the message out that has that emotion. when you first start doing something, you're like a kid in a candy store. You just want to listen to your own stuff, which is really cool about, this AI stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said for that too. You create something from nothing, and there is a sense of accomplishment there. There's that, when you listen to it, you go, well, this is really good, and then you want other people to listen to it. Like, hey, check this out. I wrote the words to this. Tell me, does it make you feel something? Do you like it?
Yeah.
So there's definitely that.
And I've actually I have a few gigs on Fiverr for custom songwriting, just to in case somebody wants it. And one of them that I'd really love to get into is to write children's songs that are, fun, but they're Bible based. And I actually use Canva to create a little video, like a music video, So I've done 2 of them so far, and that was really fun. The video part's a little, using the AI generator for that, and 5-second clips. You gotta
slice and dice.
Yeah, but you know what? It's really cool, and I love the idea of with my music now, for the most part, it's all about adults and stuff. But I'd love to be able to do something for kids. I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I'd love to be able to get a fun message out to children that gets them bouncing around and gets them feeling the emotion and singing along, that kind of thing. So I am kind of like widespread with what I'm doing, but
right on.
You can only do so much at a time.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
So, well, all right, man. This was enlightening. I appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this. And
no, thank you.
I think I'd like to, do an update with you every now and again, just to see how the music's going. And I'm sure there's other things that we could chat about throughout.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Before we bail though, I'll make sure that I put a link to your stuff in the comments or not the comments, but the video description. And make sure that people can get back to you and find you and listen to your music. Is there
Awesome.
anything that you want folks to hear or know, or any message that you want to leave them with before we bail?
No, just, without God, you have nothing. And I think that, for me, my mom died about 3 years ago. And she always said, Matthew, you need to get right with the Lord. You need to get right with the Lord. And I always was just kind of like, I believed in God, but I just didn't really, I was on the fence, and the devil owns the fence. Okay. And even though I've really, really, really become more righteous with my relationship, it's so easy to go back on that fence. So if I would say to anybody, just listen to music, whether it's mine or I'd also highly recommend the Glorify app. Every morning I have a process, and it just really gets me going in the right direction and gets me thinking, biblically. And I think I'm on 75 days and haven't missed a day. And that'd be the only other thing I'd suggest to people that are having a hard time, or even if you're not, just need a direction.
Fantastic. That might be a line, if not a hook, a line in a song for sure. The devil owns the fence.
I already read it.
There you go. There you go.
It's actually one of the ones that I can't get it to sound. The chorus just doesn't resonate. It's just kind of flat. So I'm playing with it.
Right on. Well, you stick with it, man. I want to hear that one when it's done.
I'll let you know.
Sounds good. All right, Matthew, thank you so much again, and we'll talk again soon, my friend.
Yeah, Ron, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Awesome. See ya.
All right, bye.